Welcome back, my friends. And now what we are going to do is we're going to talk about the different type of panels that we have in here, and because I want you to get familiar with them, and they are really important. So the first one, we are going to talk about this toolbar, and as you can see here, I have these options where I can click on the selection tool. Now, when I select the selection tool, which is the most important one in After Effects, what you can do is you can click on your objects and you can move them. You can just click and drag them, all right? So this is a really cool and important tool. So you can, move and manipulate this and put it in anywhere you want. So if you have a lot of different objects, you're gonna be able to take them and move them. Now I'm gonna press Control Z in order to undo all of these changes that I made. And that's another shortcut that I suggest you to remember, Control Z, all right? Because you're gonna be able to undo things that you don't want to do. And after that, we have another option called the hand tool. Now the hand tool allows me to move my canvas, all right? So imagine that this is your desk and this is a piece of paper. What you are actually is just moving through your desk. You are not actually moving the object. So that's another thing. So you're moving your entire thing, your entire block of your canvas, but you are not moving the object at all. Now this is useful when you are working in a little area. Let's say that you are working in this and you want to navigate inside this, but you don't want to actually move the object. So that's what you will be using. Now there's a shortcut for this tool, and I don't want you to use these tools like that, all right? So there's an H shortcut for the hand, which I don't want you to use. And there is B selection tool, okay? That's the shortcut. This one, I want you to remember that because we're gonna use it a lot. I mean, you're gonna be working and then you wanna move something, so you're not gonna be pressing, you're not gonna be going all the way in here, clicking, coming back, clicking, coming back, clicking, coming back. No, no, no. We are going to use the B key in order to do all these things, all right? So, thank you. So now we know that there are tools like that. So we can use a lot of these things just like that, just clicking and starting to manipulate our options or objects or graphics inside this region. Now let's talk about this other section where we have our project panel. Now this project panel, as you can see, is selected, and I have this blue outline around my object. That means that that is the panel that I am selecting, and if I want, I can start manipulating it. What I can do is I can just move my cursor, and you can see that my cursor is right in here, so I can just drag, and you can see that I can drag, and I'm going to be able to see all the different columns that I have in here. And I'm gonna get a lot of information about my project. So that's the cool thing. First, you have, in this case, I have the different objects that I'm using in this project. And right now I am using just one composition, which is the object that is holding my image or this PSD file from Photoshop. And I have the actual file from Photoshop. So I have this file that is inside this composition. Compositions are empty. They are just a holder. A placeholder where you can put things, all right? Just like the project is the main folder where you can have compositions, and inside those compositions you can have a lot of different type of objects. So that's basically what happens. Now you can see the type of object that you're using by just looking at these different type of columns that we have in here. So we have the name, and that's the name of the actual file. We have the type of the file. In this case is a composition, and this one is a Photoshop file. You can see the size, in this case 11 megabytes. You can see the frame rate, in this case just on the composition, because the master After Effects PSD is just an image, so we don't have a frame rate. You can see when it starts, what's the end point, when the object starts, or the composition in this case, and when the composition is going to end. You can see the tape name, you can add comments in here, you can see the file path in this case, because this composition is an object created inside natively in After Effects. You don't see the file path, but in this case for the master After Effects PSD file, you can see the file path. All right, so that's what is happening. And you can see some of the video information. In this case, the size of the actual object, you can see that is 1700 pixels by 1700 pixels. So that's what we have here. And now if you click in here, you can see that you can right click, and then you can get more information about this. You can go and activate duration. And now you can see that it shows you the duration of that specific object. You can right click and say, I want to see the date. And now we're going to have access to the date, and you can see that it's right in here. we can make it bigger, and we can move like that, and we can see the date. All right, so everything is going to be here, and the video info, we can actually make it bigger, and you can see that we have a perfect square 1700 by 1700. So that's what we have here. Now additionally, we have some other options. We can right click in here, and we can create a new composition from here. We can create a new folder. We can create a new Photoshop file from here, a new Maxon Cinema 4D file. We can import objects from here. We can import recent footage, and you can see that the recent one that we imported was this PSD file, and I have it right in here. So if you are working with some files, you can just import them right away into your project. Now, another thing that we're going to see in here is that we have a garbage can where we can just eliminate things. If we don't want something, we can just take it, drag it, and we're going to get rid of it. So I can just do that by doing this, drag my entire composition, and I can just get rid of it. And you see that it says, are you sure you want to delete the composition? Master Effects, yes, delete it. And now it's gone. I don't have my composition anymore. But I can do that. I can create a new one by just clicking on this little guy that I want to show you. So I can create a new one, and I can give it a name. And it was, the name of that one was Master Effects Layer, Master After Effects, because it when you click and drag from this object into your new composition option, or if you click and drag into this little icon, you're gonna get the name of the actual file that you're using. But in this case here, I can use the name that I want, and right now it's comp1, but I can say my first comp, and if it's the first, I don't need to put 1. But you can see that here I have a preset now, HDTV, which is 1080 by 1080, excuse me, 1920 by 1080, all right? And you have all these different type of presets that you can use all the time, so that's really nice and cool. And in this case, I am using a personal kind of option, right? So what I can do is just click in here and say, you know what, I want 1700 by 1700. Now I have this option for aspect ratio, so I'm just going to click in here, and that way I'm going to be able to create my own. And then now I can click, and I'm going to look that aspect ratio, and I'm going to click OK. Now I have a new composition, but this new composition is empty. I have nothing in here, but you can see that I have this, my first comp. I can take my Master Effects PSD file, and I can now bring it inside this composition. And now if I go away, you can see that is not in place. So I can select my V tool, my move tool, and I can try to place it where I want. But there's actually another better way of placing objects inside After Effects, and that's by pressing Ctrl-Alt-Shift-H. And that allows me to place my object if I have it in here, and if I have it deformed, it doesn't really matter. I can press Ctrl-Alt-Shift-H, and it's gonna put it right into my composition. So that's another cool shortcut that you can note right now. So Ctrl-Alt-Shift-H, right? Now that's we have a new composition that we created, and don't worry about this because we are going to see how we can create compositions, and we're going to master that. And right now I'm just trying to show you this panel, and I want you to know what's going on inside this project panel. Now you can create folders in here, and inside these folders you can say, you know, this is going to be my folder, and inside this folder you can add things. You can bring objects, like for example, I want to create a text, so I'm just going to click here in this option. And I'm going to say 2020. So I'm just going to type in here 2020. You can see that I have that. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to change the size of this to 200. And I'm going to change the type of object that I'm using in here. So let's say that I want to use this. And I get that. And now I have this option here, After Effects 2020. And I can take now, well, this is just a piece of text, and you can see that there's nothing in here because the text is just something that happens inside After Effects, and I don't actually have an object that I can place in here. But I want to show you something. So for example, if I take layer and then I create a new layer, I can go and say, you know what, I want a new solid. Now when I create a new solid, which is kind of the same thing, you can see that text can be created by pressing Ctrl-Alt-Shift-T. And then a new solid, which is something that I want you to remember, Control-Y or Command-Y. This one is really important, so I'm just going to create that one, and it's going to be a dark solid right now. I'm going to click on OK, and you can see that now I have this solids folder, and inside this folder I have this dark gray solid. So that's basically what I want you to see. Now this solid can be manipulated with my move tool, and I can just take it, drag it, and place it in another region, and I can put it in here if I want to. But right now, like I said, right now I just want to show you what is happening here in this project option. Now we have some other tools. We can change the interpretation of our footage. We're gonna go into this one later because this is kind of a more advanced kind of feature. Then we have another option here. We can adjust the project settings and our rendering operations, but right now we are not going to deal with this. And we have also an option in here to change the actual space that we're going to be using, the depth that we are going to be using for our images and channels. So in this case, you can see that we are using an 8-bit per channel option, but we can go with float values like 30 bits per channel and or 16, and you know, it depends of the type of project that you're using. In this case, we're going to stay with 8 bits per channel, and then later on when we move to something like Cineon, or if we bring EXR images and, you know, high definition staff and all these kind of cool things, then we're going to start working with probably all these other depth options. All right, so in this case I'm just going to click on cancel. We don't want to deal and move anything in here, and that's basically what we can do with our panel. Now something else that you can do is you can move like this with this bar, and if you have a lot of different objects in here, there's another bar that's going to appear in here. You're going to be able to move from top to bottom. Now you can press you know, these arrows in order to move and navigate inside your option, and you can see that if you move, you can navigate, and you can see how everything changes here on the top, and it gives you some information. For example, this is a great solid. You have a thumbnail of that. You can see that's a folder, it has zero items inside it. Then you can see my first comp, and you can see that it's a composition, the duration of it, the size, and you can see now that this is a million of colors option, and it's a PSD file, and if you click in here you can see where it's located and all these kind of cool things. Now remember also that depending the type of object that you're using, you're gonna get colors in here. So for example, you can see that this After Effects, this PSD option or PSD object has this kind of purple kind of tag color, and if you look inside this first composition, you can see that this object contains the same kind of color. Now text, because these objects are native to After Effects, like I said, like the text and this solid that we created inside After Effects, I mean objects that we didn't bring from another program, or so those are kind of images we're using from inside After Effects. They have this kind of red color, and that's why we get this red color for our tags. And that's basically what we have inside this project. Remember, you have the right click option in here in order to create new compositions, new folders, and new different objects. And basically that's what we have. I will see you in our next class. Take care for now.